First of all, let me say something. I wasn't here last Sunday, but I listened to the podcast. Let me just say a couple things. Our last 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago, Megan spoke about fences. And last week, Victoria spoke about outsiders are in. And let me just say, those two messages, they're both on our podcast, Chilliwack Vineyard, were absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. They were different. One was, Megan laid more of a theological foundation, and Victoria came in with just some incredible stories and examples and fleshed it out. But I want to just say, those two messages, if you want to know about the heart of this church, who we are, what's important to us, what is going to guide our impulse going forward, if you haven't listened to those two messages, you need to listen to them. For those of you who are here, would you agree? Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, and I mean, who say women can't teach? Oh my freaking goodness. That was unbelievable. So I was just say, it was crazy. So crazy good, not crazy bad. So yeah. Well, again, happy Father's Day. I have a Father's Day prize for one lucky father. This is a DeWalt measuring tape. 9 out of 10 pastors recommend DeWalt. But this is not coming, this is going to be a competition for the Master of the Universe Father of the Year. So we have a bit of a quiz. Now, you can help your dads if you go and sit next to them, help them. But we're going to ask you 10 or 11 questions. I want you to keep track of how many you get wrong. So here's the first question. We're going to start with it. Who said, when I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant, I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much the old man had learned in 7 years. Okay? Don't call it out. By the way, did you know that George heard I was giving a quiz and he wanted me to give him the questions in advance? Hiss. Can you hiss, George? Yes. My goodness. Okay, so either it's, and he might not be right. Don't believe George, because I didn't give him the questions. It's either Mark Twain, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Sigmund Freud, or Homer Simpson. Okay, so I want you to, if you want to sit with you can help him out. You come up with what you think is the answer. You can't change. Okay? 3, 2, 1. Okay, you have an answer. You can't change. The answer is Mark Twain is the answer. Okay, that's the first one. If you got it wrong, you got to go ding, ding, I got one wrong. Okay, number 2. Who gave this great parenting advice? 90% of success is simply showing up. Pierre Trudeau, Jim Gaffigan, my favorite comedian, Michael Jordan, or Mark Twain? Okay, no. Don't be calling these things out. Now, you might be calling him out to throw people off. I wouldn't be surprised. No, yeah. So get your answer. Get your answer. 3, 2, 1. The answer is also Mark Twain. It's true. Okay, number 3. Who said a father carries pictures where his money used to be? Okay. Don't call out. It's Kevin Costner, Steve Martin, Jimmy Fallon, or Barack Obama. Okay. Remember him? Okay, so 3. You got to come up with an answer. You can't change it. The answer is Steve Martin. Yes. Okay. Some of you are batting 1,000. We're going to have a real thing if we got everyone. Okay, they're going to get harder here. Number 4. Number 4. Number 4. Number 4. Who first celebrated Father's Day? Either the Ming Dynasty, the Romans, Catholic Europeans, or the Swedish. Do not call it out. Make a choice. Ming, Romans, European, Catholics, the Swedish. 3, 2, 1. The answer is Catholic Europeans. No, first time we're getting a separation between some people here. Okay, number 5. Here we go, number 5. In Germany, Father's Day is known as Vatertag. Is that right? You Germans? There we go. Which means either Men's Day, Daddy Hour, Papa Week, or Uncle Month. Okay? Come up with an answer. Don't change it. The answer, 3, 2, 1. The answer is Men's Day. Yeah, George got one wrong. They all feel so bad for you, George. Number 6. How many Father of the Bride movies have been made? Oh, okay. How many? 1, 2, or 3, or too many? Hey, okay. There we go. 1, 2, or 3. Come up with an answer in your mind. Don't change it out of integrity. Here we go. The answer is 3. Every 20 years, they come up with another one. I don't know. 3. Number 7. Who is often called the father of medicine? Hippocrates, Demosthenes, Jim the medicine guy, or Isaac Newton? Okay. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Come up with an answer. Don't change it. Of course, the answer, the oath you take is the Hippocratic Oath. Yes, it's the first one. Number 8. Yeah, here we go. We got 3 more. Who is considered the father of the symphony? Wolfgang Mozart, Ludwig van Beethoven, Joseph Haydn, or the artist formerly known as Prince? Come up with an answer. Don't change it. No, okay. The answer is? Beethoven. No, it's Haydn. Haydn. Yes. I just Googled it this morning. Oh, by the way, if some of you are using Google, that is forbidden. No Google here. I should have put that out at the beginning. Some of you said, I should have tried that. Number 9. Who is known as the father of history? Pliny, Herodotus, Aristotle, or Mel Brooks? Okay, you got 4 options there. Okay, take a look. Come up with an answer. Don't change it. The answer is no, Herodotus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Okay, are you keeping track of how many you got wrong? All of them. Number 10. In Tibet, it is a Father's Day tradition for the men of the village to tickle each other until the weaker one starts crying. False, how dumb do you think I am? Or true, don't knock it, sounds like fun. Okay, there's only 1 of 2 answers here. Come up with an answer, don't change it. The answer is true. Yes, it is true. And finally, as a bonus question, in Mongolia, loud farting sounds are a commonly used greeting between men. False. How dumb do you think I am? Or true. Don't knock it. I said hi to someone this way the other day. Okay. The answer is false. Okay. How many of you got 5 or less wrong? Put your hands up. 5 or less wrong. Okay. How many got 4 or less wrong? Okay, now we're down. How many got 3 or less wrong? Oh, wow, they're not dropping off. Jeff dropped off. There we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. How many got 2 or less wrong? Oh, and we have a winner. Hey, there we go. Well done. All right. There you go. Things that you learn in church. Well, today I want to ask a tougher question. The question is this: do you have what it takes to be a father? That's the tougher question. Let me open in prayer. Lord, I want to invite you, as you've already been here, Lord. I pray that you would continue to minister to us, speak to us. Lord, we look to your Holy Spirit to teach us. Open our ears, our hearts, to hear the truth, the revelation, the freeing words that you want to speak to us this morning. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, one of the questions I have, go back to that jeans picture. In one sense, I guess you could say, do I have what it takes to wear the pants in this family? And I like that question, because, and I'm not talking some macho, I'm in charge, because we realize, any of you who are married or have kids realize, I'm only one of the people who are wearing pants in this family. My question is really, today we're going to talk about, do I have what it takes in some degree when it comes to mentoring, leading, fathering the next generation? Today I'm going to speak at two levels. I'm going to speak to those of you who are physical fathers, but I'm also speaking to all of us, fathers, mothers, uncles, aunts, grandparents, mentors. Any one of us that ask this question, do I have what it takes to affect the next generation towards the kingdom and towards God's heart and call for their lives? That's really where I want to go here. And I'm under the firm conviction that all of us have what it takes. That I have what it takes in my family. That you have what it takes in your family. That we have as a church what it takes in this family. Interesting, on a graduation day where we're talking about helping and encouraging 3 young girls towards the next chapter in their lives. And it's just a model of what we want to be about as a local church. So, we're going to talk, and I want to just say that we all have a call in terms of this life. Now, I love the picture of the 2 new twins that the 2 girls we have, new girls in our church. All of us have had an experience. Go ahead and put the picture up there of this young baby. We look at it and go, what have I done? And the first time you hold the baby in your arms, you have this question, oh my goodness, what have I done? It's an incredible feeling of vulnerability. It's an incredible feeling of, oh my goodness, this new human being is completely dependent on us. It's interesting how we've been designed, as God's designed us as humans, that this young baby is not only takes 9 months of gestation, but then is so helpless for such a long period of time. And it can be intimidating. It can be overwhelming. I think if you ask any new young parent, they would say, oh my goodness, I can't. Susie would have to say the very first time Danielle, our oldest, and they put it in this baby thing. What was your thought? Oh my goodness, they're letting us take it out of the hospital. It's almost like, I can't believe they're letting us take this human out of the hospital, right? We're the ones now responsible. It was overwhelming to start in terms of this. So I want to walk through, I think all of us have the ability, and we have what it takes. And I believe, although it can be challenging, it's not complicated. Let me say that again. Although it may be challenging, it's not complicated. And these things apply to all of us, whether we are physical parents or not. Here's the first one. We all have, and you have what it takes to affirm and bless each child as a unique and special gift of God. We all have that ability. To affirm means to basically state that something is true. I solemnly affirm that this is true about you. It means to call out what is true about that young person. And we have no greater example than the Father calling out in front of all sorts of people his son, Jesus. Me and my wife just have gone back and started watching The Chosen again. I just love just the way that they have portrayed different things. And this whole idea, the Father affirmed Jesus. Matthew 3:17 and 18, and a voice from heaven said, "This is my dearly loved Son, who brings me great joy. What a great example of affirmation. Why did Jesus need that? Why did other people need to hear that? We all can bless and affirm our kids. Had to laugh. We were in the park. This is an older story. We were in the parking lot, and some mom was frustrated with her kids. It's like, come on, you butt nuggets, get over here, you know. And it was just like, oh my goodness. She was like, these kids are not a blessing. These kids are not a joy. I can't stand them. How do they get saddled with them? You know, and I get it. We all have times of frustration with our kids. But at the core, Jesus needs to hear that voice from the Father. I am delighted in you. You bring me great joy. And let me just say, this is before Jesus did anything. It wasn't some performance thing. It was simply out of the basis of their relationship. You bring me great joy. Jesus hadn't done a single thing yet. When it comes to blessing and affirming our children, each child is different. Your child may be artistic. They could be athletic. They could be musical. They could be bookwormed, quiet, reserved, loud, boisterous. And I'm convinced that our children are seldom like us. Someone said, I don't know if it's true or not, maybe Paul, genetically we are more like our grandparents than our parents. I don't know if that's true. But all I know is my kids, they were very different than me and Susan. And it was like, wow, can I still bless and affirm them despite the fact that they're different than me? I mean, I'm a big sports fan. None of my kids care less for sports. I'm going, wow. All that modeling and mentoring I did of watching football didn't make any difference to them whatsoever. Anyways, we'll leave that alone. We'll get back to that. But we all can bless and affirm them with life-giving words. You did well at that. This is what you're good at. God has given you these gifts. It's only the most misguided of men. An older generation sometimes felt, well, I can't say those things to my kids because I'll give them a swelled head or something. That's just out of a parental insecurity. I'm proud of you can be one of the most powerful things we can say as parents. You know what's even more powerful than that? I'm proud of you for this. That's another whole level. One of my favorite Christian books is a book called Divine Romance, written by John Eldredge and Brent Curtis. And in the story, I think it's Brent that approaches his older father, begging to hear the words, I'm proud of you. And he has this conversation in the car, and he says, Dad, you've never told me that you're proud of me. And his dad is like, well, you know that me and your mother are proud of you. And he says, no, I don't know. Well, we are. We are proud of you. And his son doesn't leave it. He presses him. What are you proud of me for? That makes all the difference in the world. We all have the ability to bless and affirm the next generation. Number 2, we all have the ability to bless and love their mother or their father. One of the most powerful things we can do for the next generation is to remain committed to our marriages. It's one of the reasons why me and Susan did a marriage course for so many years, because we recognized that strong marriages are the foundation of strong families. Malachi puts it this way. Malachi 2:15. God has made husbands and wives to become one body and one spirit for his purpose. so they would have children who are true to God. So be careful and do not break your promise to the wife you married when you were young. That has always been a sobering, fear of God verse in my mind. Now, let me say this. Even if your marriage is not together and you don't live under the same roof as the parent of your children, you can still speak words of blessing rather than words of bitterness. You have what it takes. And I recognize that crap happens in life. And there's things that happen outside of our control. Right? But we all have what it takes to speak words of blessing. As much as, remember how Scripture says, as much as is possible with you, live at peace with all men. There's some people you just can't, they won't live at peace with you no matter what you do. Okay, as much as is possible. And this would apply here, as much as is possible, what's in your control. Number 3, you have what it takes to correct and guide your children with love. The idea here is not punishment as much as it is training and correction. It's interesting, when Paul writes to young Timothy, who is assuming his pastoral role, in one sense acting as a bit of a father to this new young church. This verse is not up there, Jeff. He basically says to Paul says to Timothy, I want you to do 3 things with these young believers. I want you to correct them, I want you to rebuke them, and I want you to encourage them. Correct, rebuke, encourage. And I think that's a good model for any of us who have kids in the next generation, right? Correct is simply, you know what? You were doing this, you need to do this instead. That's correction. Rebuke is, you're doing this, stop. That's not right. Don't do that anymore. That's rebuke. That's wrong. Encouragement is, you can do it. I believe in you. Go for it. Those 3. Let's put another example up. I used to teach baseball. I used to be a baseball coach back in the day to a very motley group of young boys. One kid hit me. He was so mad. It was a crazy story of me. But it was a little bit. But let's just say, for example, let's apply this to T-ball, the youngest age. So when you're teaching a kid to play baseball, oftentimes you use T-ball. And with T-ball, the things that you tell a kid is you teach them some of the early things of hitting a ball. Okay, I want you to keep your elbows in. I want you to keep your eye on the ball, which of course is not coming at them, it's right there. I want you to stand so far from the plate, right? All of these sort of teaching sort of things. And if they miss the ball, then you say, okay, this is what you're doing wrong. This is how you need to change it. And if they hit it at all, maybe they hit it below the ball, but if they hit any part of the ball, what do you say to your young kid? Yeah! Kill it! You're a monster! Right? You encourage them. You can do it. That's what it means to be a parent, right? Whether they're learning to play T-ball or whether they're trying out their first job and really their boss is driving them nuts. And as a parent, you go, well, I've had a few bosses that have driven me nuts. Whatever that is, whatever that stage of their life is, or they're brand new in their marriage, and you're encouraging. However you do that, you have what it takes to be a great dad. We have what it takes to be great mentors to the next generation. Let me say this, before you get too far down this road of teaching, encouraging, rebuking, you've got to keep this ringing in your ears. D, seek to model the life you want. You want your kids to do what? Imitate with God's help. We've all heard it. 90% of what we do is not taught, but what? It's caught. It's just caught. Kids just pick it up by observing us, right? This whole idea, this is a really, I'm going to share a stat with you that's just it might just be like a gut punch and you go, oh, I didn't want to hear that. Like it's just a horrible stat, but I'm going somewhere with it. So for example, let's take something like connection with a local church. I'm going to share two stats. One stat is when the father is a regular, this is assuming that there's only one parent. So if the father is a regular attendee, but the mother is not, versus if the mother's an attendee, but the father is not. Listen to these stats. First of all, if a father's a regular attendee at church, but his wife attends only once in a while or not at all, 38% of kids will become regular church attendees. If a mother attends church regularly, but the father attends only once in a while, only 2% of the children will become regular church attendees. That is wild. There is something specific about the role of a father. Actions speak louder than words. So if truth is caught, not taught, the model of parenting is really simple. Include them in your life wherever you can. Don't buy into the lie. Back in the 80s or 90s, ever heard this lie? Well, it's not about quantity time. It's about what time? Quality. That's just BS. It's just like, no, it's about quantity time. And in the middle of that, some quality time will just happen. Remember what Mark Twain said in the quiz? 90% of success is what? Showing up. Guys, I cannot tell you, I am not a big Shakespeare fan. I can't understand what he means. I can't understand Shakespeare at all. I don't like Shakespeare. It never spoke to me. I went to every one of my kids' Shakespeare plays because my one son has a degree in theater. I thought, how many Shakespeare plays? I've been to probably 10 Shakespeare plays. That's what a dad does. Show up. And I was a 90% successful dad because of that. Okay. E, we all have what it takes to empower our sons into manhood and our daughters into womanhood. Every young girl wants to know of her dad, am I worthy of your love, your attention? Am I beautiful to you? There's a fear that I will be abandoned. And every father has the ability to empower their daughters into womanhood. Some men start getting a little weird when their daughters enter puberty and they back away from their young women. Do not do that. You do not want your child, especially your young girls, to have a touch hunger where they're prey and open to any young man that says, hey, beautiful. They know they're beautiful. They don't need somebody to tell them, hey, beautiful. John Eldredge says every boy looks to his dad or other men to answer this question. Do I have what it takes? Every young boy has a fear often of failure. I don't know if I have what it takes. Here's interesting. Now, this is an aggregate. This is a large percentage. I'm going to break down the difference, and I know there's single parents and that, and you got to ask, and we're going to pray at the end about God meeting some of these needs that we were not able to fill. But I believe, and from my reading, that in an aggregate sense, fathers provide a different need than do mothers. A mother's role primarily is to provide their children with a core security. I am loved. I am loved. I am secure. I may have a face only my mother could love, but but I'm loved. I'm secure. Fathers provide their children with a core strength. I can do it. I have what it takes. And John Eldredge asked this provocative question, so when does a boy become a man? And the answer he puts out is this: a boy becomes a man when his Father says he is one. That's powerful. We all have the ability, and as fathers, we have the ability to call our boys into manhood and securing them. One of the things, I do a recovery podcast, and the latest podcast that I did was called What's Going On with Young Men? And social scientists are finding, specifically with men, young men, there's something they have never seen before in the last 50 years. It started around 2010, 2012, and now in the 20s, there's a massive gap between young men and young women. And social science don't know what to make of it. They've never seen it before. One of the stats is this. By the end of their 20s, 2/3 of young women will be married by the time they reach the end of their 20s. By the time young men reach the end of their 20s, only 1/3 will be married. That's never happened before. Not in recent history. 2/3 of the women are married, 1/3 of them married. And everyone goes, when I'm teaching high school students, I sometimes ask them this question. I was in G.W. Graham the other day, we got into this. So I asked them, so why is that? First of all, who are the young women marrying? And one girl said, well, maybe other girls? The answer is, well, statistically, no, that doesn't make a big difference. The answer is older men, significantly older men. I asked the girls, well, why is that? One girl said, because they have daddy issues. That was a great one. Whatever. But the point was this, there's something happening with young men. Young men are not stepping into adulthood. Young men in their 20s are not interested in stable relationships. There's a great TED Talk thing called The Demise of Guys by Philip Zimbardo. I had a great talk with a counselor who was talking who works with men and women in their 20s. And he said, I don't know what to say to the young women because most of the young men are going, man, I have everything I need in my 20s. I've got skip the dishes, which I'm living at home. Now, there's economic reasons, that's another, but I'm living at home. I have skip the dishes that bring food to my house. I have these amazing video games which provide me this unbelievable, stimulating video game experience. And I have this unbelievable porn which gives me an incredible variety of beautiful women who are available for me. Why would I want a relationship? Now, again, young women, I'm sorry, that's very depressing. But here's the point. Young men are not being called into manhood. They're working less. They're driving less. They say 18-year-old young men now resemble 15-year-olds from 20 years ago. There's a massive change underway, and we're not providing avenues for young men to become men. All right, where does the role of the church community come into this? I never had a dad that called me into adulthood. But the only thing I learned from my dad and all of my Tomke brothers and sisters, we got this drummed into us, and we learned this one thing, work. We all have a very strong work ethic. Okay, well, that's good. It's good to have a good work ethic, right? So, but in my life, into my college years, I had 2 or 3 godly men who called me into strength, who had a belief around me in terms of what they believed God's call for my life was. And so as a church, not just individual parents, we all can notice and recognize young people among us and bless and affirm them. Our young people should never be invisible in the church. It's funny, you were teaching the other day, and this young girl, you works with immigrant kids, and this one girl said, you saw her out in the playground, and then you came into school, and you were in your room, and a little girl came in, I saw you! And sometimes kids you teach will see you in the supermarket or whatever, and they're like, I see you. It's like, it was just like, I see you. That's a great African greeting that is used among Africa. I see you. Do we see? Number one, we all can continue to do the concerted work around building, maintaining, or repairing strong marriages. And we all can provide a clear roadmap to what it means to follow Jesus by being living examples of it and reference points. I look around the church, I see other people who are following Jesus. There's not this massive distinction between what they're saying and what they're doing. They're not hypocrites. They're not perfect, but they're living it out. You can do it. You can do any of those four things. Let me go back over them again. And number A is simply this. We all have the ability to, first of all, A, to bless and affirm each child as a unique and special gift of God. B, we all have the ability to love and bless the parent of our children. Build strong marriages if that's still within our control. C, we all have the ability to correct and guide our children with love. D, we all have the ability, where did D go? To model with our lives what we want our children to imitate. And finally, E is we all have the ability to empower our sons into manhood and our daughters into womanhood. We're going to share a couple words. Before we do that, I'm going to have Jeff put on just a 2-minute video, which I think expresses this just in such a poignant way. Go ahead.
What are we here to build, boys?
Body, spirit, community.
The 3 pillars. Now, before we begin, we have a new member to initiate today. Randall, come over here. Fathers. Randall, how old are you, son?
9.
9 years old. Fine age. Do you think you have a good life?
Yeah, I think so.
Good. Good. I hope you always have a good life. But as you get older, you might start to find that things get harder. The world isn't always a kind place, especially for men like us. Take a look at the people on this mat. We are your community. When things get hard, we are going to be the ones who hold each other up. As Randall's father, you are his foundation. Come lie down, as if you're going to do a push-up. Randall, climb on your father's back. Jack, your back was built to carry your son through life. Are you willing to hold him up no matter what comes his way? Yes. Show him. Good. Now keep going. Are you willing to raise this young boy into a strong man? Yes. Are you willing to push him to be the best man in the world he can be? Yes.
I cannot lose my son.
Okay.
I can't.
We have what it takes. I have a couple words that I want to share, and then we're going to end with a prayer. Susan, why don't you come on up here? And then after that, Trudy, I'm going to have you share. These are different examples of God making up for the deficit. Whenever we share a word like that, Jeff, you prayed this morning, all of us become aware of a deficit, right? We're so aware of the deficit either in our own history, our own journey, or where we failed. And so these 2 words are example about God coming in, meeting the deficit. One sec here. Let's turn. Thanks, Richard. Mentor me. I know. Come on. It's the right button. Okay. Then it was the left button. There we go.
Do you know sometimes you go out with friends, and it could be the movies, it could be out to a restaurant, maybe it's chill sounds, a wedding, whatever, and you tell your friends, well, if I get there first, I'll save you a spot. And sometimes we'll make the chair, fold it up or lean it forwards, and that lets everybody else know that this chair is taken. It's already got somebody's name on it. It's reserved. Don't sit there. This word is for men in particular that have disqualified themselves, who don't think they're spiritual enough, may have done something in their past, are doing something now that they feel disqualifies them, leaves them out of God's love, that the Lord would keep them at arm's length because he doesn't want them close. This chair, the Lord says to you, saved a spot for you at my table. It's reserved for you. It's not for anyone else. He wants to show you his love.
I want you just to pray for, if you feel that in your heart, I just want you just rest in God's presence and just be ready to have him speak to you and meet you there.
So, Lord, I thank you that you didn't come when we were all squeaky clean. You didn't come because we had it all together. Not because we were perfect, just because you loved us right where we were. You hold us, you heal us. When we let you in, we experience your comfort and your love. And I pray for these men, Lord, that in different ways you would give them eyes to see how deeply you love them and long to be close to them.
I just want to share about my relationship with my dad. And I was one child of 8 in our family, and I was the 4th. And it wasn't a bad experience, but neither did I have a close relationship with my dad. And it affected me negatively. But and he passed away in 2005, so about 18 years ago. And 3 years ago, I was in a bad place. I was going through a really rough time. And God gave me a dream about my dad, like 15 years after he passed away. And he's now, with God. He was a believer, and I was raised in a Christian home. So God gave me a dream about my dad where he just came and embraced me. And I was just in his arms for a long time and just cried. And it was just so comforting to me. It was so comforting. And I feel like it healed our relationship even after he's passed on. And I think that's just amazing that God can do that. Like, my dad is in a place now where he understands me. And he's got so much more love to give. And so, yeah, I just wanted to say God can do anything.
Would you pray for us?
Yeah, so God, if there's anyone in here that this story, they can relate to it, where things maybe didn't end well as their father passed on, or maybe they're a ways away, still alive, but in a different place in this world, Lord, I just ask that you would come and bring your comfort, that you would come and bring your healing in a way that is just so just unique and exactly what the child, the grown-up child, needs to know. And I just thank you for healing after all these years. Amen.
You want to just turn it off? the one thing that this morning, I was kind of wrestling with this message, and Lord, how do you want me to end it? And those two words really are super helpful. The thing that I was struck with was the idea that being a parent invites us into a place of pain and disappointment. That's not a great Father's Day message, I know. That's why I left it till the end. But every one of us knows that to be a parent is to open our hearts up to pain and disappointment when we see our kids doing things or unmet dreams or them going through struggles. Interesting how Simeon prayed for when Jesus was presented at the temple as a baby. And Simeon said to this young mother, Mary, Mary, a sword will pierce your heart. And any one of us who have children who are not following God, or in difficult places that we cannot control or change, we all know the pain of wanting to see something different. And all we can do is pray. This phrase, teach us to pray, was said in a different context, but I asked God, teach me to pray for my children. I was out walking the other day, and for one of my children, God gave me this very simple little thing. Pray that they would know that I exist, that I love them, and that I'm pursuing them. And they can run as far and fast as they can, but they will not get away from that. And that will echo in the dead of the night, like tinnitus almost, that sense of my love. They cannot escape that. God, would you, and I've just been praying for that one child in that way. God gave me, and I continue to pray. Every one of us, fathers, mothers, grandparents, we know what it's like to have a sword pierce our hearts. And I'm just going to invite for you, any one of you who, 2/3 of my prayers these days are for what? Any guesses? My kids. 2/3 of my prayers are for my kids. I'm sure it's the same way with you. That's the heart of a parent. That's the heart of a father, of a mother. And I'm just going to invite you, if there is a child right now, as a father, as a mother, I'm just going to invite you to stand, and I'm going to pray on all of our behalf that God would teach us to pray, teach us to hope, teach us to do that. I'm just going to invite you right now, if you're in that place, just to stand, and I'm going to pray a prayer over you, for you in that place. Lord, we have this burden. Despite everything we did, Lord, our kids have not made choices that reflect our desire for them or your desire for them. Lord, I ask you would teach us to pray. I give you my kids, Lord. Just in your own mind, just speak out the name of those kids. Lord, I ask that you would come and that you would minister to our hearts where we don't need anything from our kids to meet needs that you should be giving, but we can just bless and affirm and encourage them without a brokenness to pull back and try to get something from them. Lord, where the sword pierces our hearts, I ask that you would steel our hearts in your love. Lord, teach us to pray. Teach us how to intercede for our kids. That one line in that song that we sing, it hits me every time. That I speak the name of Jesus for my family, for my family, for my family. It's the heart of a father. When one leaves, the 99, you guys just go ahead and eat. There's lots of grass here. I gotta go and find the one. It's the heart of a father. Heart of a mother. trust you, Lord, that you are bigger. These are your kids that you gave to us as a gift.